Back in January, Manchester United were 7th in the table, 17 points off the leaders, already out of both domestic cups, staring down their shortest season in over a century. 6 months later, they'd finished 3rd, qualified for the Champions League, and handed their new manager a contract running all the way to 2028. That's not a coincidence, and it's not a fluke either. It's a genuine problem for every other club in this league. And once you actually look at how it happened, and how deliberately United are building on it right now, you'll understand exactly why. Welcome to Football Detailing, and let's get started. The man behind all of it is Michael Carrick, and if you've only vaguely clocked him as a former United midfielder, here's the update you need. After Ruben Amorim was sacked in January 2026, United handed the reins to Carrick on an interim basis, and what followed was one of the most dramatic in-season turnarounds English football has seen in years. In his first 16 league matches, he won 11, drew 3, and lost only twice. During that stretch, United actually picked up more league points than any other club in the country, City and Arsenal included. He beat Manchester City. He beat Arsenal. He beat Liverpool. He beat Chelsea. Centre-back Harry Maguire summed up the mood inside the dressing room perfectly around that stretch. "We had 2 tough fixtures when Michael came in, against Arsenal and City," he said, "and I think everyone was probably looking at them thinking, oh no." Instead, United won both. That run was enough to convince the club's hierarchy to make the job permanent in May, on a deal through 2028. This isn't a caretaker riding a hot streak that's about to cool off. This is a manager the club has now built its entire medium-term plan around. So what did Carrick actually change? The first thing he did, and honestly it sounds almost too simple to matter, was scrap Ruben Amorim's back 3 experiment entirely and move United back to a 4-2-3-1 with players restored to their natural positions. For over a year, United had been quietly shuffling square pegs into round holes. Carrick's first real move was just letting his best players do what they're actually good at again. The heart of the system is a double pivot sitting just in front of the back 4, patiently exchanging short passes with the center-backs to manipulate the opposition's press and open up passing lanes forward. Bruno Fernandes, still United's captain, gets almost total freedom in the pocket behind the striker to hunt for that killer through ball whenever it's on. Out wide, Matheus Cunha tucks inside from the left to create a central overload, while Amad Diallo provides the width and directness on the right. It's patient, it's structured, and it's built to explode forward the second the opposition's shape breaks. Here's the part that should genuinely worry the rest of the league. In Carrick's first 2 matches in charge, against Manchester City and Arsenal, the 2 best teams in the country at the time, United's goalkeeper was barely tested at all. That's not luck. Carrick set his team up in a compact mid-block, cutting off central passing lanes, and trusted his double pivot and back 4 to stay disciplined instead of chasing the game. Beating City and Arsenal in your first 2 matches in charge, with a system nobody's had time to prepare for, is exactly the kind of statement that makes every other manager in this league sit up straight. Now, it's worth being honest here too, because a real tactical breakdown shouldn't just be a highlight reel. That same system showed genuine cracks against West Ham, a side happy to sit deep and compact, rather than engage United higher up the pitch. When an opponent just refuses to press and parks 2 banks of 4 in front of their own goal, Carrick's patient, possession-heavy approach has occasionally stalled, with United struggling to actually break teams down rather than counter against them. That match finished as a draw, and analysts who broke it down afterward pointed to the same underlying issue. A system built to punish transitions and exploit space simply doesn't have as much to work with against a team that refuses to leave any space in the first place. 5 games is a small sample, and this is a completely normal teething problem for any new system settling in. But it does point to exactly what the summer's incoming players actually need to solve. Which brings us to the transfer window itself. And here's where the real story starts. Because what's actually happening at Old Trafford right now isn't just spending. It's discipline. And that's a genuinely new thing for this club to be known for. Casemiro left as a free agent at the end of the season, alongside Jadon Sancho and Tyrell Malacia, and Carrick's own double pivot took another hit when Manuel Ugarte suffered an ACL injury at the World Cup, ruling him out long-term. That left a real, Urgent gap in central midfield. Exactly the kind of gap that's tempted plenty of clubs into panic spending in the past. United didn't panic. They moved for André Santos from Chelsea, a Brazilian international, in a deal reportedly worth up to £50 million, tying him down until 2031, and then activated Youri Tielemans' release clause at Aston Villa, adding a genuinely experienced Premier League operator on a 5-year deal. Two midfielders, both specifically suited to that double pivot role, both signed on terms United were actually comfortable with rather than terms forced on them by a deadline. And then came the deal that tells you everything about how this United actually operates now. United had agreed a fee close to £35 million with Atalanta for their midfielder Ederson, and by every account it looked done. Then Ederson was called up as a late injury replacement for Brazil's World Cup squad, which delayed his medical, and when United finally got him in for a full examination after the tournament, their specialists flagged a concerning knee issue tied to a recent meniscus injury. Atalanta were stunned. Ederson himself was reportedly desperate for the move to go through, and United walked away anyway. Not because they didn't want the player, but because they weren't willing to commit a major fee and a long contract without being fully confident in his fitness. Ederson has since signed a new deal at Atalanta instead. A few years ago, it's easy to imagine a version of United that pushes the deal through regardless, gets the headline signing, and deals with the consequences later. This version didn't. The same pattern showed up again with Matheus Fernandes. United pushed hard for the West Ham midfielder, seen by plenty inside the game as one of the best young players outside the traditional Big Six, with some even comparing his ceiling to Declan Rice's. But throughout the negotiation, Fernandes never made his preference clear. And United, watching Tottenham show far more urgency and willingness to match any figure put in front of them, simply weren't prepared to overpay for a player whose actual desire to join wasn't obvious. Spurs ended up paying a club record £85 million to get their man. United let him go. Again, not because the money wasn't there, but because the certainty wasn't. Put those two stories next to each other, and a clear pattern emerges. This isn't a club losing out on targets by accident. It's a club that's decided it would rather miss a deal entirely than get the wrong one, which, if you've watched United's transfer business over the last several years, is genuinely a different way of operating for them. It's worth noting United didn't win every midfield battle this summer either, walked or otherwise. Elliot Anderson, the Nottingham Forest midfielder heavily linked with Old Trafford, ended up joining Manchester City instead, in a deal worth a British record £116 million, with Anderson himself saying the decision was straightforward once he knew City wanted him. That one wasn't United choosing to walk away. That was a straightforward defeat in the market, and it's worth including honestly, rather than pretending this summer has been one long string of shrewd decisions. Not every miss this summer has been United's choice. Some of it is simply rival clubs outspending or outpersuading them, and pretending otherwise would make for a less honest picture of where this squad actually stands. It's worth pausing on what Santos and Tielemans actually add tactically, rather than treating them as two interchangeable names brought in to plug a hole. Santos offers real physicality and ground coverage, someone who can win the ball back higher up the pitch, and complement a more composed, passing-focused partner alongside him in that double pivot. Tielemans brings something neither Santos nor the departed Casemiro fully offered: genuine, battle-tested Premier League experience. Someone who already understands the physical demands and refereeing tendencies of this specific league, which tends to matter far more in a wet December away fixture than it does in a pre-season friendly. Between those two profiles alone, Carrick isn't just replacing bodies. He's building real tactical variety into the exact part of the pitch his whole system runs through, which is precisely why losing Ederson to a failed medical stings less than it might have a year or two ago. There's already genuine depth behind it. And that discipline actually paid off somewhere nobody expected it to. Marcus Rashford spent last season on loan at Barcelona and thrived there, scoring 14 goals and adding 14 assists across all competitions, while helping Hansi Flick's side win the Spanish Super Cup and a second straight La Liga title. Rashford genuinely believed he'd done enough to earn a permanent switch. Then Barcelona let their own buy option on him quietly expire, choosing to spend elsewhere instead, and with United ruling out a third loan, Rashford is now set to be fully reintegrated into Carrick's squad for pre-season. Expected to be available when United open their league campaign away at Hull City on August 22nd. United spent the early summer bracing to replace their left winger. Instead, an in-form, Barcelona-tested Rashford fell back into their plans without United spending a single pound to get him. United aren't finished either. Reports throughout July point to Roma's Man Utd as the club's next primary midfield target, giving Carrick a genuine option to finally replace Ugarte's long-term absence, even after Santos and Tielemans have already arrived. There's also continued talk of the club wanting reinforcements at center-back and left-back before the window shuts at the start of September. The full scope of this rebuild, in other words, is still being written in real time, but the principle behind it already looks settled. Sign the players who actually fit and actually want to be there, and walk away from anyone who doesn't clear that bar, regardless of reputation or price tag. Every club chasing a top 4 finish next season now has to prepare for a Manchester United side that already knows exactly who it is, tactically, before a ball's even kicked in August. And to really appreciate how rare that actually is for this specific club, it helps to remember just how chaotic the years before Carrick had been. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, sacked. Ralf Rangnick, a short-term interim experiment that never really convinced anyone. Erik ten Hag, given real time and real money, still sacked. Ruben Amorim, brought in with real tactical conviction of his own, still gone within a single season. 4 different managerial identities in the space of a few years. 4 different systems for the players to relearn. 4 different transfer strategies pulling the squad in 4 different directions. That's the actual backdrop Carrick inherited in January. And it's exactly why a settled, contracted through 2028 answer to the "who are we as a team" question matters so much more at Old Trafford right now than it might at a club that's had stability all along. That's the real problem here. It's not one signing, and it's not one result. It's a club that finally looks settled, building around a manager who's already shown he can outthink elite opposition, and a recruitment strategy that's finally willing to walk away from a deal rather than force one through, at the exact moment several of the teams above them in last season's table are still working through their own uncertainty. Settled clubs with a clear identity are hard enough to deal with on their own. A settled, disciplined Manchester United, one that's actually shown it can say no, is exactly the kind of problem nobody else in this league wanted to be dealing with again so soon. If you enjoyed this breakdown of what Michael Carrick is actually building at Old Trafford, make sure you're subscribed to Football Detailing for more tactical deep dives like this one, and let me know in the comments if you think United can genuinely challenge for the title next season.